Close media encoder real quick. I gotta check my storage drive. Oh, that's gonna be a problem. We got a bit of an issue with space. Maybe I just won't record this one because I only have 16 gigabytes of free storage on my drive at the moment. And the only reasonable way for me to get rid of some of that is to upload some into my Google Drive, but obviously I can't do that right now because it just started streaming, so I probably should have thought about that like an hour ago. I do have like a couple of exports that I already uploaded. That's a total of like 10 gigs that I can free up. I'm going to have to re-render a couple of those as a result, because they're not uploaded yet to the drive, but that should be fine. Maybe my DaVinci cache files will free up a little bit. No. Hello, Jay White. I'm just trying to make sure that I can record this stream for high quality local backup, because I'm going to be using a lot of the stream footage for making a video with. But 16 gigabytes might be a little on the low side. I'm up to 37. I think that should be enough for right now. Let's just try to stick with it. Well, actually, it was still deleting stuff, so maybe it's a little bit higher now. No, it's still 37 with just C disk. Well, my C disk now has like 80 gigs free, so that's good. Let's just get going. I'm recording now. Okay, so yesterday we didn't actually do all that much, and I felt a little bit bad about it because I was tired, because I hadn't had like any sleep in like a week, and I still haven't, to be fair. So here we are. I got bogged down like bitching about people in the casting video and stuff like that. So today we're going to continue with like the asset manager or the asset registry thing that we were playing around with yesterday. I made a bunch more data assets. So we now have the folder with the cards in it, and they are subdivided into the basic pack, which is now 20 items. So the basic pack is finished. And now I've got the Dark Horrors pack, which has 13 items at the moment. And those are all like a classic horror type character. So this is a ghost, and I've got like 12 more of those. And I can, with the asset registry, I can load these like by folder. So if I just load everything in the cards, it'll load everything all together. I can also only load from this, and I'll only load these together, and so on and so forth. So that should be actually like really, really nice to work. Because this is the first time I'm actually using data assets in a way that are meant to be used, if I'm being honest with you. This is how you're supposed to use these data assets and work with them. And you can tell, well, I don't want to say supposed. Because you can very much just work with them like I have been. But the issue is saving things to do with data assets, and that's also an issue that my current inventory system tutorial on YouTube has. Actually, maybe I should note that down for a future video. I ran into that because if I try to save a data asset variable, right, it's going to save the pointer to this memory address for this thing, but next time the game loads, that memory address is going to have totally separate data in it, totally unrelated, so it's not going to load the same data asset again. So what we actually want to do when we save data assets, if I want to save my inventory and save what cards I have in my inventory, what I actually do is I save the path to this specific assets, which would be like content, cards, basic pack, hunter, right? And then the asset registry can reload that on save load. So that's the thing that we're going to be doing here today. First and foremost, I want to move some of the code that I have in Blueprint that I played around with to C++. And then we're going to go into the card slot here. And we're going to change the, that's a good question. What are we going to, I think, yeah, we're going to change this card slot from using a card asset, maybe, to using a path. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe we'll just make something that loads the card asset into the card slots instead of changing the card slot. So because that way we can just keep the rest of the code as it is. And then just with saving and loading. Yeah, I think that's the way we're going to do it. So we're going to keep our code intact. So this is still going to function by object reference because it's just nice and easy to like script with and stuff like that. So we don't have to, every time we want to get something, we don't have to get like the asset registry every single time, and then we like get asset by object path, and then from that we would then like what was it, get assets. Like we don't have to do this every time we want to access something from the path, right? Because that would be fucking insane. So we only do this on save and load. Yeah, I just decided that literally as I was explaining it. So there might be some issues with that. I don't know. I haven't really thought this through. Can you tell? Also, have I not had the chat widget open like the entire time for the last like 2 streams? Well, fuck. Anyway, let's get started with our game mode. We have a... No. I'm still a little bit chaotic. I'm going to show you the code that I changed before the stream started. So we have the get real card value in our card asset here. And we run into the issue that I thought we would. And that is that the get game mode here needs a world context object. And we just had this in there. But the issue is that this data asset doesn't exist within the game world. So if we try to get the world context from an object that doesn't exist in the world, that is an issue. The easy fix for that is just to have a parameter for world context object. So whenever we call this function for get real value, we just like pass in the player or whatever, or literally just any object that exists in the world, and then we can get game mode from that. And now this function entirely works. So that's functioning now. That's fine. And then we have our game mode. Let's see. In our game mode, we don't have anything yet, but we're going to be coding some stuff in there because what we have is, where's Unreal? There we go. We have a blueprint somewhere, surely. Shop game mode. Okay, so we had this, right, in blueprint, where we get the assets by path. That gets us a array of assets. And we loop through that and add them to a map that has the, what is it? It has card assets as the key and then float as the value. And the idea was that we're going to keep track of the value of all those cards through this. We're going to do this a little bit differently instead. What we're going to be doing is we're still going to be using a map, but for a different reason. So if you were in the Discord last night, you will have seen us talking about this. We came to the conclusion that it probably is just easier to still have the value. Let me actually open Zoom it. I always forget that before I start the stream. Still have the value just as a variable on the data asset. You can also write to a data asset, which again, is the reason that I like using data assets over data tables. In this case, maybe data tables would have been nice, but now that we're using data assets anyway, we have the possibility to write to these. This is not persistent, as in across play sessions. This doesn't save to a physical asset on disk, but it is persistent across the entire play session. So it is quite nice because of that. So we can just, every time we want to update, we update the asset directly. And then when we save, we just get the value out of the assets and we like save that in a like save game object. And then when we load, of course, we put that back in. Now, in order to save and load, we need the like the file path. So squiggly, 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 right? We're gonna take care of that in a moment. But then, why do we still need it to be a map? Because at that point, you can just have an array of these, and you don't need to have like this whole key value stuff. Well, that is because one step further in the entire system is I also want to keep track of, okay, what we're going to be doing. Let me just explain what this should do at the end of the day. We're going to have a little timer here, and let's say that timer runs on what I think right now is like 90 seconds. Every 90 seconds, we're going to make our way through this entire map, or the array, and update all the prices by, let's say, plus minus 10%. This could be any percentage, really. But let's say 10%. So every single card in the game, every 90 seconds is going to get updated in its value, either going up with up to 10% or down with down to 10%. But that is entirely random. I want this to be somewhat deterministic, which is to say, if you have a specific card, and that specific card you sold like 20 of, I want the chance that it goes down in value to be significantly higher. If you have another card that you've only sold one of, I want the chance for it to go down in value to be lower, but still be weighed toward going down in value. Then any card that you haven't sold any of, I want it to be weighed toward having a greater chance to go up in value. That's because of gameplay mechanics, because it'll stimulate you to sell different types of cards and not just keep buying the same booster pack over and over and over and over again, because we're going to have like 5 different booster packs, right, that you can buy. And from there, I want to stimulate you to buy all of them in turn and have a little bit of every single booster pack going through your store. And also, it kind of simulates real-world economics, because if you sell 20 of this card, there's going to be 20 more copies out in the world, which technically would lower its value. So it's a little bit of both. Most importantly, of course, is the actual game play mechanic there. So we need to keep track of how many of each card we have sold. And wouldn't you know it, that's going to be very easy to do if we have a map in which we can just say, hey, card, and then like amount. I was going to make like an asterisk here, but it kind of failed. And then the amount of cards sold of each type. And every 90 seconds when we do the plus minus 10%, we can then take that into account. I'm not entirely sure how we're going to take that into account, how that's going to like calculate yet. We'll get to that when we get to that. But then it can set all of them back to 0, so it can start recounting. So every 90 seconds, and maybe it won't be 90 seconds, right? Maybe this will run on a different timer, right? So maybe this one will run on like a 5-minute timer or something like that. But I'm not entirely sure. But something like that will definitely happen. So that's the idea. That was a really, really quick recap. I'm in the groove right now for like the next 5 seconds probably, and then I'm going to fuck something up and everything is going to come crashing down. First and foremost, that means that we're going to change this map from a card with float to card and int. So let's go into our inventory, or our game mode rather here. And this is going to be card int, and this is card sales is what we're going to call this. And then I also want to have all this, right? Well, now they're just getting assigned a, oh no, they're not being assigned a random value, they're just being assigned their default value, which is actually fine. Yeah, because we're going to add a load game function here as well at some point, which will override all that and then save game or whatever. So this entire function we're probably just going to recreate one-to-one in C++, which is going to be interesting. Which also means that I probably want the out data assets as an array to be a member variable. Because if I need to, for any reason, like every 90 seconds or every 5 minutes or whatever, we're going to need to access every single card to update the information on it. So I think just keeping this array around is probably a good idea, and it probably needs to be a UProperty to get not like garbage collection or anything. Actually, there would be a struct, so they probably wouldn't get a garbage collector because it's not a U object, right? Yeah, that's a good point. We'll see whether or not we make it a U property. It doesn't really matter that much, I don't think. So let's start copying it over. We have our, what is this data type called? Because let's make that first and foremost. Out data assets, asset data. So it's just asset data, right? I think we had something of the sort. I don't think this needs to be public. I think we can make this... We can make it protected. Private, protected, I don't know. That will be you, probably. Assets data, maybe? No. Maybe not. Maybe it's because it's a struct and it's not included here. I might need to forward declare something about that. Also, couldn't I forward declare this? Hold on, why is that not forward declared? That's a fan-fucking-tastic question. No idea why I didn't do that. So if I just real quick, just for shits and giggles, right? If I just promote this to a variable, this is asset data. Can I just... it needs to be a T array first and foremost. T array... I guess we declare that as a struct. Asset data. Cards. Assets. Lists. Okay. Then we... I don't know if this like is begin play. Does not have virtual specifier. Does it need to? Well, might as well. Make a definition. Automatically adds in the super begin play. I really like that because I usually tend to forget something like that. Copilot, what are you doing? Let's see. Are you making sense today? Why are you not... There we go. I think what we do is U assets registry pointer asset registry. Yeah, we did this yesterday, I believe, on stream. The stream might have cut out at that point. I don't know. I'm already dropping frames. That's a bad sign. Okay, let's hope that that's not going to be an issue. Cannot initialize local variable. Does it need to be I? Asset registry? I don't think so. We did it in some place. Where did we do this? Did we do it in the card assets? Or did I just do this off stream and delete it afterwards to redo it on stream? Was I that much of an idiot? I probably was. Because surely this wouldn't have done anything like that. Yeah. I don't think I needed the .get actually. I think that might be the issue. No. Let's see. You can also initialize local variable asset registry of type asset registry pointer with f registry module. Let me look back at what ChatGPT said about this, because I looked this up on ChatGPT yesterday, I think. Did I not? I might not have. I'm like 90% sure that I did. But it seems like I might not have. It's really annoying, because if I found it on Google, there's going to be a bitch to do. Let's just ask ChatGPT. Show me how to get the asset registry in Unreal using C++, please. Include header files. I have that. Is it the... Oh! Okay, so what we're getting is the F assets registry. Hold on, ChatGPT, slow the fuck down. Module reference is what we're getting. That was the mistake that I made. Okay, so that works now. That is fantastic. Let's go back to our header file here and close ChatGPT so that I can read chat. And from there, what we do is we can use that now. Asset registry dot. Let's see. Get assets by class. I kind of want to get assets by object path, actually. Assets by path. What does this take in? Fname package path. So if I just do that for now, and then out and recursive needs to be true. So cards asset list and true. Cards asset list, however, is it needs to be F asset data. That makes sense. This does not need to be forward declared, apparently. That is fine. Have fun with this project. Thank you. Thank you, General. Recently, I want to say thank you. You're fantastic at explaining the whys of things to do and also just do them. I try. Sometimes I fail, but I try to do that because that is personally how I prefer to learn. So yeah, I guess we just get all the cards. So we hold on. We just get path to this, right? So we just get path, copy path. We could make that a variable. Let's just put it in like this. I think that'll do. Just to make sure though, let's make this UProperty visible anywhere. Blueprint read only, why not? That way we'll be able to see whether or not it gets, I think it's about 33 items that we have now. Or not. Because at this point it just stores all of them in there. Then what else did we do? So yeah, we now store that in a thing. Then we can do a for each loop. We cast to, oh no, we cast to the card data asset to get its value and add it to the map. So let's do that. Probably need to make a separate function for this, but we won't. For cast, and I'm leaving. I know, right? I know. But we're doing it in C++, so it's okay. It makes me look smart if I use C++. People are intimidated because they see letters instead of pictures. Well, to be fair, there is a little bit more complexity to C++, but not that much. Okay, so we do the cards. Let's see, that is F assets, data, assets, and cards asset list. Yeah, that's almost correct actually. Aside from the fact that we need to add a include here. And instead of the in value here being 0, we want to get our card, not get real value, we don't need to do that right now, just the normal value. And that should now, on begin play, get all assets, get them into their own array, and stuff them into this map. I think that's correct, yeah. So let's go back to Unreal real quick, and that means that we can, hey, get rid of all that. Compile, save everything, and let's recompile. Find it really refreshing, someone with expertise. I wouldn't personally call myself an expert on anything. Like, I think, oh fuck. Hold on. Card values is not a member of TCG. Oh. Why did I think that it was? No, hold on. Oh, it's because I changed the name of that. That makes sense. Current value. We don't need to get that from there anymore either, do we? We can just get that, yeah. I'll get back to the comments in a second. I just need to like not lose my mind. So we can get the current value equal to we don't need to do any of this shit. We can just say we just have value now, right? I added that. So we can just return value and return value multiplied by 1.5 or value multiplied by 2. That makes this entire code so much easier as well. Holy hell. Which means that we don't need to cast to this anymore, do we? I don't think we do. You know, I don't think we need to cast to that anymore, so that can then get rid of the includes for the game mode and gameplay statics itself, making this entire class a bit easier to deal with. And we don't need the world context object for this anymore either, which again makes this function easier to use. Oh my god, we're making this so much better. Anyway, so yeah, I wouldn't necessarily call myself an expert on like almost anything. But I do fundamentally like learn by understanding instead of just by copying, personally. So I think that does help. Let's see if we can compile now. Unreal is very hard to learn in general. I know that feeling. I don't know. I feel like once you get your teeth into it, though, and this is kind of the issue that I'm probably that I probably had with Godot as well. And this might just be a C++ thing to a certain extent as well. I don't know. Because I feel like, yeah, I feel like it is a thing related to C++. Because at some point, like, the wonderful thing about C# and the wonderful thing about, like, especially if you abstract things even more into, like, Godot script, right? Which is effectively just, like, Python. as far as I understand, is that it becomes closer and closer to English as a programming language. But that also means that the language is doing things for you, which makes it harder to understand at times what it is doing. Whereas I think the wonderful thing that I personally do like about C++, you can fuck up a lot of things, but you're more exactly telling your computer what it needs to do. And I think that is what I personally like. But that's not to say that like C++ is the supreme overlord of all languages, because I think like Unreal makes a lot of it. Like Unreal does take certain things about C++ out of your hands, like everything to do with memory management, which is usually like the biggest pain in the ass. So maybe I'm a little bit privileged talking about like C++, not that bad, because Unreal takes care of the worst things about it. And like I'm already working with the language in a pretty like structured framework, which forces me to not make dumb mistakes. But with that combination, I really do like the feeling that I'm somewhat directly telling the computer what to do, and not just like talking to ChatGPT, who then hallucinates the ever-living hell out of what I meant. Yeah, I do wish that the documentation was better though. I'm making a game with a modular quadruped mecha with constant breaking parts off for the player's enemy and enemies. Been a nightmare to figure out how to make it optimized better. I can believe you there. that sounds like a nightmare. Anyway, let's take a look at our game mode here. So now we've got our card sales, which is our map, and our card asset list, which is an array, both of which are visible anywhere. If I start the game, will we crash? Something's already giving a compile error. Yeah, that makes sense actually, because that function no longer takes in that stuff. Actually, though, I just realized that we don't need to take in the rarity for it anymore either. We'll worry about that in a moment, because it won't crash anything for us, right? So if I now take our game mode, it has... Oh yeah, no, that makes sense. Okay, it has the card sales. It has 33 elements, which is the amount of cards that I have. Every single element, like every single card, has an entry and a value. This is supposed to represent how many of that card have been sold. Obviously, that's not what it does right now. It's just copying the value into there, because that's what I told it to do, because I made a mistake. But then we also have the cards asset list, which is just... I can't really show anything about that, because it doesn't really show you anything in the preview. But this will be useful for when I want to like reiterate over everything. Then again, do I need to? I don't know that I need to, if I'm being honest with you, because I have the map with all of the data assets in it now. So is there any reason for me to keep the asset data in an array? I don't think that there is. I don't think that it really matters to keep that around. I thought I was going to need to, but... yeah, maybe not. Maybe that's not necessary. It's probably actually very definitely not necessary. Okay, so the card asset, right? Instead of taking in a rarity, what we're just going to do is we're going to switch on the... oh, that's why. No, we do need to take in the rarity. Never mind. Because this is only data asset. The asset itself doesn't have a rarity. The slot that it exists on has a rarity, so we still need to take that in. Let's go back to the game mode. So yeah, I don't think we need to keep this around. So let's instead make this a temporary variable. And we can just we can always change it back if we need to, but I don't think we will need to. I think this will do. So what will variable card can be moved to if statements. Oh yeah, that's right, isn't it? You can just make it in here. Which apparently... Oh, you don't need a semicolon there. That's fair. Okay. That's just a little bit cleaner. So then now what? What do we do? I guess the next thing we do is we make something that saves and loads the data for the assets, because that's the thing, right? You can't usually save, but maybe in C++ you'll be able to. So usually we have the issue that since we have, like this T map, for instance, right? It has card assets in it and then integers. But if I want to save this just saves the memory address of where they exist, which is fucking useless. But since we're doing C++, I can dereference them, which might let me save the asset as a whole. Because the way around it in Blueprint that I've been using up until now before was to just make like a struct, right, with the exact same information in it that has that is important inside of the card asset. Which, to be fair, the only thing that I really need to save is the value and the amount sold. Like, I don't need to save the card image pointer, which probably wouldn't be in the same place in memory anyway as well. Yeah, no, I think we're gonna do it with the struct way. Because we also don't need to save the card name and the card text, because that's all just in the asset. We don't need to save the entire asset, even if we could. So we'll only need to save the value and the amount sold and the path to the assets. So card save data. Yeah, that's definitely not what I wanted to do, but I do want to have like the generated body, so that's quite cool. So we've saved the float for the value. We save the int for amount sold, and we save the... It's a very good question. What type of value is that? Is that a name? I'm assuming that the path is a name. Package path as a name. Yeah, so let's save it as a name. fname asset path. Do we need this in Blueprint? I don't think we'll be needing this in Blueprint. Let's keep this a little bit more compact, just because it looks nice. Now we're going to need a save object, and I'm going to be 1000% honest with you. Up until now, I've only ever made save objects in Blueprints, because I've always needed, in any project that I've done saves with, I've always needed to save something that was Blueprint only. And to be honest with you, it might still make sense to do this in Blueprint, but it'll be a good exercise to do it in C++, I think. I don't know if there's any reason not to, but let's do a save save game, and this will just be tcg save game. Here we get into the real questions, right? Casting, not casting, who gives a shit? Is save game 1 word or 2 words? This is the real controversial shit. Should this have been capitalized or not? I'm gonna go with capitalization just because it is more pleasant to look at, really. There we go, create class. We can put that in. I was gonna say we put that in here. No, we actually don't, because the save game itself literally only needs a header file. I don't think I've ever actually put code in a save, because a save game doesn't need functions, right? You could put functions in it, I guess. But it's mostly just like a list of data. So yeah, you don't need that. At least I'm not going to use it. Okay, what we'll do is in our save game, we'll have a T array of f card save data, which needs the add include. For some reason it works now. Cards save data. Do I need... Can I just like say... Because I'm not using anything from it, so can I just forward declare this and get rid of this? I think I can. Okay, so we're going to save everything. Like our save functionality is going to exist in our game mode because that's generally the place that I do that. And I don't think we have a game instance class to do it in. Is there any reason to make a game instance class? I want to have a timer. Could have that in the game instance instead of the game mode, but I don't think it's really going to matter. Yeah, I'll do everything in the game mode. So this will be a void save game. And doesn't really need to take anything in. What is your squigglies about? It's not implemented. I'm working on that. Don't scream at me. There we go. Okay. Copilot, are you going to help me? Because we're probably going to need to include something. I didn't need this include apparently. So let's hashtag include. We're definitely going to need to include the save game. That's a good point. I'm assuming gameplay statics or something like that, right? Make save game object. Oh, that's create save game objects of that class. Yeah, that makes sense. Why do we need to cast it though? Does this just return a normal save game? Oh, this just returns a normal save game. So then why does it take in a static class? Wait, what? Okay, so it makes one of that class, but it returns a value of just like base save game, which you then need to cast still. To be fair, that's also how you do it in Blueprint, but I kind of figured that maybe you could just make it directly here. Let's give us a little bit more room and a little bit more room on this side as well. Then for auto alum card sales. Yes, that's pretty much it, but I don't really... Okay, we're gonna need to take care of that in a moment. I don't think I really want to do this like as an auto alum, to be honest with you. right, because we can just say for every card asset pointer in card sales dot keys. Oh, okay. So if we make a T array here of pointers, which will be our cards list, and then we don't set that equal to because it doesn't return anything. It might return something. It returns in 32. Well, congratulations. That makes our cards list, so we can then iterate over that. And I really like, let's call that assets. Member is inaccessible. We can fix that. I mean, for the most part, all this shit is going to need public anyway. Of course, this now needs to be all pointers stuff. And doesn't need to be specified that it's a key anymore because we just have this as a okay, how do we get the path name? Because I was working a moment ago. Let's see. F name and F string. Okay, so F returns a qualified path name for his object in the format outermost outer.name. Yeah, I don't think this is what we want to be doing. I think what we want to do is we want to do this again. Probably only do that once, not every time inside the loop. That sounds insane. And with the asset registry, maybe we can like get registry dot get path. Just gonna oh, that's the wrong thing. Just gonna chat GPT this real quick. How do I get the path to an asset in C++ from a pointer? I should also get in the habit of, instead of using raw pointers, using Unreal stuff. Okay, so it does set get path name. It's a little bit worrying. And we also need to get this out of the map itself, so we can... this is probably very slow the way I'm doing it. But if we do card sales.asset, that will get us the integer for amount sold, so that, sure. Let's just see if this works. If it doesn't work, we'll get back to this. But we want assets. Get path name. Oh, now it is a name, right? Now it returns a name? No, still is an F string. So can I then use that path to load? I should be able to. Yeah, I'm not even going to ask ChatGPT, which is always a good idea. I guess we just save this as a string instead then, if that's what it returns. And if that's wrong, we'll run into the issue eventually, I am sure, which is... Yeah, it probably makes way more sense for that struct to exist in here. That way we don't even need to forward declare it here. Yeah, that makes way more sense. So let's change this to an F string. Okay. We don't need that line of code anymore. So we get our save game instance that we made. I'm only going to have one save on this game. Fuck having multiple save slots. Check if save exists. Check if save with name exists. Does save game exist? Save slot at 0, which is user index. Okay. If not, if so, we load from it, and then we override, I suppose. Yeah, that doesn't really matter. And otherwise, we create it. Okay. Going to need to compartmentalize this into a couple of functions. Like within Blueprint, sometimes things can just kind of get out of hand, and you're like, oh, that's fine. But now that we have it like line under line in C++, I'm already like, oh, maybe I should really make this its own separate function, maybe. We'll see. So once we've done that, like, that's at the moment the only thing that we need to save. Eventually we're going to have like a money value, which we also need to save, but that's literally just like getting and setting a float. That is ridiculously easy. For now, we save game objects. So it's just gameplay statics, save game to slot. It's just as easy as that. Why does this think that it's not being used? Reassigned in all parts before being read. Yeah, I know. That is by design, yes. So that's fine. It makes the top line of creating save game instance a bit redundant. You don't need it there. It gets created again in the if-else statement. Yeah, but it only gets created within this scope, right? So if I don't make it up here, it gets created here and then destroyed here, which means that I can't use it here. Like, I can try. Let me try, just... hold on. Yeah, see, so this is out of scope now. So I need to create it up here for it to be reassigned. It's a little bit weird that it doesn't understand that. Though, I suppose it doesn't say that it's not being used, it's just getting reassigned before it's read. But that's because it isn't read until here. Like, it's being written to. So I'm pretty sure that this is still necessary. I guess we make a load function next. Because I can't be fucked to... let's make this into its own separate function. Because otherwise I'm gonna lose my mind. Where is my save game? Where's my game mode? There we go. Void create save game. Probably want to make this a U function actually. And that isn't void actually. What that should be is a save game pointer. If we copy all that away, yeah, we probably could compact this a little bit at this point. We can say up here then save game instance equals, or rather this. Equals create save game. And now we just need to return. So I guess we can just kind of like return save game instance. Yeah, I mean we could return inside of the if else if we wanted to, but like this works. That's fine. What do we have to complain about here? Local variable assets can be made pointed to consts. I'm sure that it can. Reference to const. It's kind of nice that it does tell you that though. Now what do you complain about here? Member function can be made static. Sure. Wait, did I just remove the... I just removed the return type. Definition. Yeah, okay, but hold on, declaration also needs static. Oh, we need to forward declare that. Cannot have static specifier. You told me that it could! I don't care that it doesn't. But please just stop screaming at me about it then. Anyway, so we've got create save game now. It's fantastic. Simplifies this function at least a little bit. Probably can make this into its own function as well if we needed to, but just for a for loop, I don't care. Let's make a U function for blueprint callable It's going to be load game. You are entirely correct. And load game is going to check if save data with name exists. Why the fuck would I want to empty my map when I load a game? I don't actually do, I think. You're correct. I think you are correct. You might be correct. Wasn't thinking about it that way. Let's see what it comes up with. So we've got does save game exist in save slot user index 0? If it does, we make our save game instance in the same way, except we load from slots. Then we get our card sales and we empty it. And then we fill card sales with the save data. So for everything in save data, we have our save game instance card save data. Yeah, that makes sense. uCard asset pointer, cast uCard asset static load objects. That makes sense. But I could also, like, I was thinking that we want to probably like use the asset registry for that, right? Maybe. If we just real quick remove this, let's just see with that context if it does anything else. Mostly because I'm curious. So we've got f asset data. We get asset object by object path. Yeah, that makes more sense to me, I think. Then if uAsset card equals uAsset card get data asset blah, 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 add card with card and amount sold. Function is deprecated. Asset path f name have been deprecated. Use soft object path instead. Please update your code to the new API before upgrading to the next release, otherwise your program will no longer compile. Okay, so it just doesn't want me to use that anymore. Then we're going to go back to this version of things and see if that works. The only way to test this, by the way, is to build a game. As in, package it. Because this is the thing that I had before as well. Is if you have like a data asset based system and you're playing in your editor, those data assets are just going to be in memory. They're going to be loaded. So that's a thing. Because that's not going to cause crashes. Then when you build a game, they're not always going to be loaded. So you need to actually like double check this in a packaged game. Does this not crash? But I think this is the entire load game function. I think this makes sense. So let's stick with that for now. Void load game is not implemented. You wanna bet it is? No, seriously, it is. The fuck are you talking about? It's probably just a little bit slow. What other warnings do we have here? Is not implemented. Yeah, I know, but maybe like just catch the fuck up. I don't know, man. Let's see if we can maybe make sure that this is all saved. Let's see if we can build. So there's going to be more that we need to do when we save the game eventually. Because we're also going to need to save the inventory of the chests. I don't think we will save the inventory of the shop, as in the things that we're buying booster packs from. Matter of fact, So if we're just buying booster packs, I don't think we need to save anything about that at all, because those will always be the same. It's just their values that we need to save. But we don't need to save that, because we're saving the values of everything else. We're just going to calculate that. Yeah, so we only need to save the inventory for the chest, which is going to be infinite, and the player's inventory, which is also going to be infinite in potential size. But we do need to save those as well at some point. But for now, it seems like we can build. That's a good start. Yeah, I want to save the... How do we do that? I guess for now what I want to do is I want to go into, just for testing purposes, just in my test player real quick, debug key like F, and let's add a debug key G as well. Get game mode cast to, oh no, we've made that joke a billion times by now. To the shop game mode. At which point we will save game and we will load game. And I guess the way we check this is... That's not promising. Let's check. We have these card sales. I guess... I definitely saved now. Set that back to... Wait, did I set it back to 10? Did I set it back to something else and it changed it to 10? Hold on. No, I just set it back to 10. Okay, let's set a breakpoint here. If you set a breakpoint, do you need to recompile the engine? It's a good question. I assume that you don't. Maybe you do. Hold on, what is the in-outer? U-object in-outer. Name. I think it's the loading thing that's not working quite the way I would want it to. But let's check. If we... it's actually a pretty good check, because it's going to load them in a different order now, in theory, right? So if we, like F8, we pick this. Let's lock that. This should load them in a different order. It does clear them. It does clear them. So it does do that. But then what doesn't it do? I have like a bunch of log temps for walking. That's really annoying. I don't think I need this line of code anymore, actually. So yeah, it must be this that's going wrong, because it clears everything. And then doesn't add them back in. So let's go back to using the asset registry. And just ignore the fact that they say that it's deprecated. Get asset by object path. Okay, hold on. Maybe they... Did they say another function? reason asset path f names have been deprecated. Use soft object path instead. Okay. Get by object path. And then that object path would be, what did we put in there actually? Save data asset path. Still. Use soft object path instead. Add assets by soft object path. That function doesn't exist though, does it? Unreal gets assets by soft object path. What the fuck does that even mean at this point? I'm just gonna ignore that because that is the way that it works in Blueprint. And if it works in Blueprint, like if they haven't gotten rid of it in Blueprint yet, it will work in C++, surely. So yeah, let's give it a shot like this. It might also just not be saving them correctly. That might be the other side of this issue. Like, I don't know. Like, that is hard to test for. It really isn't actually, because I can just see if it saves them. It has to save them correctly. There's no way that saving them isn't working. It has to be the loading part of things that is fucking up. Surely. So yeah, that loads all of the assets in. Then I G clears them, don't do shit. Okay, let's log amount sold and card assets path. That way we'll see if the save file even has anything in it. That's quite important information. Because the save data doesn't have anything in it. Trying to fix this function is meaningless. So let's, there's gonna probably be like a big output log. But we probably want to like dock that down here. Pretty please. Not down, okay. Let's try again. Where did I put it? There we have it. Just gonna put it over to the side here real quick. Then we... Oh, that's fantastic. Where the fuck? Why the fuck? It only exists when the assassin page is open? That's... Sure. That seems like something you might want to fix, Unreal. Because I can dock it in layout now and that's not a problem. But if it just happens to exist in another tab, even if it's not like docked in that tab, that seems... That doesn't seem great. It doesn't log anything. That's the wrong button. Okay, it doesn't log anything at all, which means that nothing is being saved. That has to be what that means. Yeah, okay. So the issue isn't the save function. Save game. What could be going wrong? Because we have the log in here as well. I'm probably missing something insanely obvious. I'm just trying to think. Like, is there anything... I don't think there's anything that I'm missing. It's probably something to do with the whole asset thing. Or maybe writer is lying to me and it's the fact that it made the thing const. Okay, so... that seems to work. Right? All this works. Kind of. These are not all the cards, I don't think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Yeah, okay. That actually is all of them. Never mind. So it logs all of them. So it runs this code for every single one properly. Then the next question is, are they for some reason not getting added to the array? That would be wild, right? So let's do save, do a for loop there. For fcard save data in whatever. So after we do all this, I want to check whether or not they exist in the save data to begin with. Before we even go into like saving game to slots, because that is really the only thing left after that. And this should never fail. Like, there's no reason that this should fail. I don't think. We're about to find out. Okay, that also prints them all. But then the moment I go back in here, and that's no. Let's. Okay, cool. The moment I go back in here and I say, hey, I want to load this shit, the loading part doesn't work. But the save game does exist, otherwise this never runs. So, okay. We're going to figure this out at some point. I mean, I don't know what or where or when, but we're going to figure it out. Let's get rid of all this. Instead of loading things, I just want to log them for now. So what I want to do is I want to in save data. I don't want to load anything. I just want to get them out of the Oh, no. Just want to get them out of here, and I want to log them. Are you not going to do this? Maybe if I say Unreal Engine log instead. Okay, maybe get rid of some of these other comments because that's probably fucking with it a little bit. Okay, so amount sold and asset path. Okay, so now it'll log everything in here. Just to check whether or not when it is loaded, because it does load to save data. We can be relatively sure of that because it clears the card sales. So the only thing that makes sense is that then... No, nothing makes sense. Nothing at all makes sense about any of this. This might seem like a dumb question, but can you maybe tell me why you use C++ instead of blueprints and how is it... just because it's... well, not right now, it's not faster, but usually it's faster to write code in C++ than it is to write things in Blueprint. Just by the simple fact of the example that I always go back to is... hold on, I'll just stop now. Like the example that I always come back to is if I have a variable. I'm just going to like make a literal float right now. Like imagine that this is a variable, has a value of 5, and I want to like add a value of 1 to it. What I need to do is I need to drag off this. I need to get a plus node. Well, I can just add a value of 1. That's actually a bad example. If I want to add a value of like 5 to it, but if I want to add a value of a different variable, which is like entirely like dynamic, I need to drag the other variable in, and I need to like say, oh, that's in this case, that's a value of 8, whatever. But that's not quite enough because then I need to like have a set float. Let's just make a float variable real quick. Like then I need to set it like this and whatever. That's quite a lot of like clicking, dragging, getting different nodes together. In C++, if I have like float A and float B, if I want to add float B to float A, it's literally as easy as saying A, hold on, A plus equals B. There you go. That's like at least like 5 times faster. And this is a very specific example, but like this kind of thing, it's just faster to type things than having to add like a bunch of nodes to do stuff. Specifically for math related stuff, but also just in general. Like making like for loops and stuff like doing stuff like I'm doing right now as well. So that is the main reason why C++, because it's just faster to type. It doesn't print anything. The fuck? Because I'm good at C# and I'm good at blueprints, and now I'm thinking about learning C++, but I don't know would I go how even to do stuff in Unreal with C++. If you already have a good grasp on C#, assuming that you came from like Unity, you're gonna pick up C++ pretty quickly. Within Unreal, I should specify. Let's say example character movement. How would you do that with very theoretically speaking of? I would need an animation blueprint, a character blueprint. Yeah, so personally, anything animation related, you can make an animation instance with like code. and like functions that need to exist on your animation blueprint. Personally, animation blueprints I just do in Blueprint. UI stuff I tend to just do in Blueprint. It's mostly just like the parent classes that I do in C++. So if you have a game with like a character, like for the player character, it probably doesn't matter that much. There it's mostly it's just faster to type like all that code. But if you have, for instance, like a bunch of enemies and you have a child class of character, that would be a C++ class, that would just be like enemy. And then all your enemies in Blueprint would be children of that. So they all share their parent class in C++ that you've written. But that individual enemy behavior or like specific code for specific enemies, I would then add those last little touches in Blueprint still. Because some things are just easier to do in Blueprint, like timing-based stuff, adding like delay nodes, like those latent kind of nodes, having timelines, that kind of stuff. It's really nice to be able to do in Blueprint. What's not nice is the fact that my thing is just like it's. Is it because I'm trying to save a custom struct? Do I need to like be able to hash that or something? Can I save custom structs in save objects in C++? And sometimes ChatGPT is the hero of the stream. The Unity for a year, but I was learning C# in school for almost 6 years. Yeah, I don't think going over to Unreal C++ is going to be a big deal for you, if that's the case. Like I did mostly a pure Blueprint thing for like probably 2 years. Then I did about a year of Unity, and then it took me a month or so to get acquainted with C++. About 3 months before I was comfortable with it, I think. And ChatGPT is not doing the thing. Let's see. ChatGPT doesn't seem to imply that you need to hash anything. Do I need to hash anything for this to work on my structs? Yeah, you save again takes care of that for you. I figured. For example, the code that changes light values every second. Yeah, some of that you just want to do in Blueprint. Again, mostly my rule of thumb is if it is something to do with visual stuff or timing stuff, I prefer doing it in Blueprint. If it is something to do with purely like logic, I prefer to do it in C++. That's mostly like how I personally draw the line, what I do where. But like, it works the same. It works the same as anything, right? You just make functions that you can call as nodes in Blueprint. Like if I go to my test player here, we have this save game that comes from the game mode, this node, and that's literally just like this function. But I feel like that might not be what you're asking. I'm just going to give ChatGPT my save and load functions and see if it can spot any issues. My load game isn't displaying any loaded info. Any ID Y. Let's see. Here's some adjustments. Additional login to help diagnose the issue. Yeah. I guess we can check whether or not we load successfully from slot, because we check. No, that doesn't even return a bool, so I don't know what the fuck you're talking about there. Right? Slot name, user index. Yeah, it returns a... Yeah, so that doesn't make a lot of sense. I guess it returns something that is, whether or not it is an object, so if it's valid. That's okay, yeah. I don't think this has anything to do with it, but let's just see if we don't empty that, if something changes, just to be sure. It's like very basic knowledge I'm missing here, because like I said, I never had to do something in C++. Yeah, that's fine. So basically the only thing you do in C++ is create objects which you can inherit from a blueprint to use functions. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. The way I like to think about it is I do programming in C++, which is to set up like systems of code. And I do scripting in Blueprint, which is to say running that logic in a linear fashion. Saying do this, then this, then this. And there can be a little bit of logic in there with a little bit of branching, but generally speaking it is fairly linear what I do in Blueprint. Again, with the exception of widgets. Sometimes with like widgets, I do a lot more stuff like in Blueprint itself. Just because it is nice to be able to like do this stuff and then visually check what the result is immediately. Without having to like compile anything. Well, technically you like have to compile this, but like you don't have to recompile the entire damn thing. So yeah, this data asset thing is being a bit of a bitch. Yeah, even that doesn't do it, but it doesn't clear now, right? When I, yeah, okay, at least it doesn't clear now, but it still doesn't load anything. Why doesn't it load anything? For save data in... So save game instance card save data is just empty. Is that what we're getting at, right? Let's we can uncomment this, otherwise I'm going to forget. Log length card save data array. That should log a value of 0 if I'm correct. I think. And if I'm incorrect, it will screw with me. For any reason, would there be a chance that values that need to be saved need to be UProperties? Could that be a thing? ChatGPT. Do values that I want to save need to be UProperty? For values to be properly serialized when saving and loading, they generally need to be marked with UProperty. This ensures that Unreal Engine reflection and serialization system can handle the values correctly. I think I might have found out what the issue is on my own. And the only reason that I thought about this is because if you want to subscribe with a function to a multicast delegate, it also needs to be a U function, and I fucked that up like a million times in the past, where I'm like, my code looks like it should work, and I just forgot to mark it as a U function, and then it just doesn't do anything. So yeah, I'm trying to make a save system now, or rather a load system. So yeah, okay, card save data length is 0. So it loads the save data, or loads the save file, rather, but the array inside of it doesn't have a length. And I am, at this point, 91.5% sure that that is because I didn't make this a UProperty. UProperty. I think this, I might need to give it like a specifier, but I think that is the heart of the issue. Because when we go through here, right, I did some logging here as well. While we're adding it to the array, it logs everything properly. Even if I, after this for loop, add another for loop where it just goes over the array afterwards, it logs everything properly. Save game to slot, nothing can go wrong there. Does save game exist? Returns true. So the save game does exist. It does actually save a save file. At this point, we also know that this object is valid because we can access it to get the length of the save data array. The save data array is just empty. And I think marking it as a UProperty is probably the thing that's going to save that. So let's save. Let's load. It did a thing, but none of the asset paths were saved. But that's progress, isn't it? So yeah, UProperty needs to be UProperty. We solved one issue and have another one. No, actually, we don't have another issue because we don't have any code to load in anything. That makes full sense, except that it doesn't because it still should be... Okay, so the save asset path is just an empty string. But that might also be because does this then also need to be a UProperty inside of there to serialize it? Because the amount sold also was 0. I don't know. I'm just going to set all these to UProperties to make sure that, like, I don't know if the struct itself being marked as UProperty will then also, like, pass down to all the values inside it. I imagine that these need to be, like, serialized in and of themselves properly. So, yeah, I think this might save me. You get it? Save me? I'm so funny. See, I can troubleshoot my own shit. I don't always need chat. Admittedly, chat tends to speed things up a fair bit. But it's satisfying when I get my own answers. Okay, again, let's try this. Once everything is loaded. There we go. Okay, we can save. And we can load, motherfucker. Okay. We can load all of the, like, global data now. So now, we need to test. Yeah, it's been a recent problem. I think we're stable now. I think we're stable again. I don't know what the issue is. I assume that someone just, like, upgraded their Netflix to, like, 4K or something. And at night likes to watch Netflix at 4K. Something like that. But this is, like, actually a problem, though. Because we were at 10 viewers. Then I dropped for, like, a few minutes. And now everybody's fucking gone. Like, I don't particularly, like, make money over these streams. But like, these streams cannot be a part of the, like, channel, to like, go businessy on you. Like, if this is what happens, these streams cannot be part of the channel's business model. Which is to say, like, for watch time, for ad impressions, but also for general channel growth, right? These streams do really, really well for a lot of performing metrics. But if I can just, like, lose 10 viewers, and if this was, like, if there were 100 people watching, I would have probably lost, like, 80 viewers of that. Like, I cannot have that. So, like, I looked it up. A 5G router is about $50. And a cheap subscription to, like, unlimited internet on 5G is about $20 a month, but that's only 5 megabit. So it's probably going to be like $50 a month or something like that, which also is like, I don't know, that is a little too expensive if I'm being, like, 100% honest with you. Like, $20 I can do. If it is 50, no. But I would stop paying my internet connection that I share with other people. Because, again, they are just leeching off of me. Which I'm also leeching off of them. I just realized, by the way, it's even weirder. 6 viewers now. Welcome back, everybody. I think everybody is now back, so maybe it's not that big a deal. It's even weirder, right? Because it's my upload that is getting throttled. Like, upload and download should be separate lanes, right? So it's my internet as a whole that dies, because also my download. So it's not even that somebody's using my bandwidth. Because if it was just a bandwidth issue, it would be either up or down. But my internet as a whole gets fucked. So I don't even think it's somebody using the internet. I think it's just, like, either the like, the rebroadcasting, I don't know, the relay is fucking up, or the router itself is fucking up. Neither of which I have access to, by the way. So, like, there's nothing I can do about that. It's wireless, yeah. Like, I'm already streaming at a fucking shitty bitrate. I'm streaming at 6,000 kilobit. For anybody that means anything to. Anyway, so what we were doing is we just figured out that we need to mark everything as UProperties for it to be able to get serialized, which makes sense. And now we're going to go in and load those assets. So load card asset. That's the way it wants to do that. Add card asset to sale with amount sold. Yeah, so the amount sold will we'll look into a little bit later, but now we should also be putting them back into the list. I think the amount sold at the moment, it gets them out of... Oh, it does get them out of there. Guess value. Sets value. No access to land now, I'm afraid not. Like, I am also desperately looking for a different place to live, because where I live is actually a shithole. Like, I talked about this a little bit last night in the Discord. I literally do live in like an attic of a building that was built post World War II because this city was bombed to oblivion. And I have a hard time believing. I haven't actually ever looked it up, but I don't believe for a second that this building is much newer than that. It's a real piece of shit. And it was divided into like separate, very small studios to be separately rented out instead of as one big building. So that's why I'm sharing my internet connection with other people. Like, it's nice. I have my own kitchen, my own bathroom, and everything like that. So it's nice in that regard. But like, that's the bare fucking minimum. So yeah, I'm also just looking for a different place to live. But it's, man, housing is expensive, and even if it wasn't expensive, there's so much competition, right? So the way it works here is you can either just like get lucky off of like a privately owned properties, which is what I have right now, which is like usually like real estate agencies own a bunch of shit that they rent out. But there's also like a lot of like rent controlled stuff. It's not really rent control, but it's like government owned, right? Or government run stuff that has more rules in place. The thing is though, if you want to get one of those, it's like a first in, first out kind of system usually. So you get waiting lists. And the waiting lists in the area where I live are about 19 years. 19. I've been on the list for 4. So I'm not getting any homes anytime soon. And sometimes homes are rented out by lottery instead of through the waiting list. That is literally the only hope I have of getting anything. Again, unless it's privately owned, at which point the prices go fucking nuts. But those lotteries are generally a like 1 in 1,500 chance. And I can only apply to 2 a week. Which means that on average it will still take like 700 weeks statistically for me to get something, which is still 10 years. So yeah. Long story short, I'm royally screwed. This is the Netherlands. Welcome. That said, we did elect a new government, which is like, oh, we don't care about nature, let's go build some more homes. And I honestly am like I like nature, I also like being able to live. So, I don't know. Okay, let's save our values. Then I'm going to go into this assassin, change this value to 10. And then we're going to load. Ooh. Okay, the card was a null value. So loading the card asset doesn't work. But that's probably because actually... Okay, let's try to do it with the asset registry module instead, because I still do feel like that is... maybe the better way to do it. We can do this in a couple of roundabout ways, actually. But we'll see. Try to do it this way. So yeah, maybe this will work a little bit better. Maybe it won't. I don't know. I honestly don't give a shit. Time to change country sound. Like, I mean, actually just moving to a place with lower costs of living, like if I could afford it, would probably be like a financially good move. But at that point, I'm technically an economic refugee, which doesn't really help. I mean, I'm white, so people don't see me that way. But that still would be what I am. Still, okay, what is the issue? Object path is none, package name is none, asset pack is none. Okay, so the asset path itself is the issue. So like log assets path. Just kill the engine and try it again. I just want to see if there's anything weird about the formatting that would make it work differently. Because I think it's trying to access a path that it doesn't understand. And obviously that's not great. But we're learning. Again, first time I'm doing actual like loading and saving stuff and whatever through like the asset registry. So I mean, this is still empty for some reason. But we were printing this a moment ago, weren't we? Am I going insane? Hold on, let's copy all this and Control Z my way all the way the fuck back to when we were just... yeah. Okay, we're printing the asset paths. So I don't know what's going on. By the way, how did you manage to get the primary data asset working? In what regard? As in saving and loading? Or as in saving and loading the object itself? Saving and loading the... Well, loading the object is proven to be an issue. What we're doing for saving like a bunch of the other stuff is I have just this card save data struct in which I just save the important information. So I just take the value, the amount sold, and the asset path from every single card, save it in a struct, and then I load from that struct again. That's the idea anyway. Clearly, that is a idea that's being somewhat problematic at the moment. So, yeah. This is game cards, Dark Horrors, Headless Horseman. Oh, it might be... Okay, so what I think might be the issue is that what we need is from here to there. I think this is what's fucking us up. There's also the fact that why is it 99? Oh my god, it keeps adding to them, doesn't it? Because I'm not clearing it. So if I load again, hold on, just for shits and giggles, right? If I load again, is it now going to be like 120 some? No, it's still 99. And if okay, so what the fuck? So the first, presumably 33 is empty. Then we have the entire list of everything twice. Yeah, I think it's the fact that it does save this path, but it saves it in a way that the asset registry doesn't know what to do with it. Delete the save file in the project and start a new one. No. The default map value. Oh, that is relatively easy because what I'm doing now is I'm just in the game mode. Oh, we're in the game mode right here. So I'm just loading everything inside of a certain directory, which in this case is everything in game/cards. And then I'm just adding all of those in a for loop on begin play. So the way that I fix the default values is to not assign them default values and just do that all through code instead. So yeah, not ideal. Well, maybe not that bad. So yeah, this get path name I don't think is quite it. Can I get a data asset path with the assets registry? Let's see. Okay, so we have asset data dot object path dot toString. Okay, let's do this differently. I've got an idea. Let's do this differently. What we're gonna do is we still need to save game instance. We still need to. Okay, so we don't actually need to empty the card sales values at all. Because those are all, yeah. No, so we don't need to empty this. We just need to overwrite them. No, but oh fuck. Yeah, no, I think we do want to actually empty it because we're going to be, yeah, okay. So remember when we moved this card's asset list as a local variable instead of a member variable? We're going to move it back now because it's going to make my life a lot easier. Why are you being a bitch about that? That's because it's in the wrong fucking header file, that's why. My goodness. Okay. Because we now have the asset data for all these assets, right? And that's always getting loaded anyway, because that's on begin play. So we now have that. And the wonderful thing should be is that we can find stuff from that, presumably. So can we, couldn't we just add that to the... Okay, I've different idea. We have our keys, then we have our asset path will be equal to like cards list dot find. But that needs a asset data, which I don't have. Unless data assets just have that. Hold on. Assets dot assets like data? No, I didn't think so. So that actually just doesn't do shit for me, does it? But what if we don't do this based on the this, but what if we do this based on this instead? Right, so we comment this out real quick, and then that's probably not, doesn't need to be a pointer. We'll get there. Okay. That's not how that works. Get assets. From that we can get the assets. And if we have the asset, we can do everything that we need to do. Because now we have save data.value is asset.value. We need to get rid of those as well. And then the asset path will be our cards asset lists. We need to... We can get that at the moment. We'll just need to worry about how to... asset data. Hold on. Yes. And with this we can get the asset, right? Yes. And then this will be the asset data dot object path dot toString. Object path is deprecated as well. I don't give a flying fuck. Yeah, I think this will function now. I think this can just stay the same. Maybe. We'll see. So we just, yeah. This might be kind of a roundabout way of doing it. But it's the best way that my broken brain can come up with right now that makes sense to me. So let's give it a shot. Again, I'm getting used to this whole asset registry using like referencing assets instead of just only variables and stuff. And it's kind of breaking my brain. So we save, which should have logged something, I think, but whatever. Now when we load, we still load everything. Okay, so it still loads fucking Okay, hold on. So these are still the same, and still card save data length is 1/3. Yeah, so something is not going right there. So this has 33 elements at the moment. If I try to... Oh! Whenever we save, this makes sense. We're just adding and adding and adding and adding. We need to clear the game instance save data first. That might be... dot empty, there we go. That might also be part of what is fucking me in some scenarios, but maybe not, we'll see. But that's definitely part of the issue. C++ break my brain. I'm afraid to even try it. I don't think C++ specifically should be as intimidating as it is to most people. Like, the issues that I'm having here, I probably would be having a Blueprint as well, is kind of what I mean. There's some extra complexities added with C++. It's sometimes a little harder to troubleshoot. Maybe a little bit, but not that much. Anyway, let's try to, like, we clear it first and then we load, and now it is... There's fucking one. Only the Banshee. Okay. Oh, man. Okay. This is not going well. Why does it do that? Oh, you're right. I'm clearing inside the loop. Thank you. Thank you very much. That is definitely the issue. I don't think that maybe was the issue that we actually were crashing on, but that definitely was the issue why it was only showing one of them. I feel like I missed something. What is the issue at the moment? The issue is life. Yeah, the life, just life is the issue. The fact that I am alive is kind of an issue. I'll go over it in a moment, don't worry. Hopefully we'll have fixed it. I can show you the solution immediately as well. Okay, so we save everything, we load, it loads all of them. 33 of the fuckers. Okay. We go in here, we say, assassin, only worth 2. Because fuck you. Right? We try to load it again. First and foremost, it doesn't repopulate the card sales array. So this is also not getting updated. It's not properly loading. It's not properly loading the assets. Unless I remove the code to do that. Oh. Okay. Ignore that. I'm only printing it, so of course it's not loading anything. Yeah. So we try to get the assets. Add asset to card sales. Set value. Okay, let's try it again. But yeah, the crashing issue was actually due to that, because I guess it was trying to read a value that just got cleared in the previous loop. Hold on, I was clearing the loop that I was looping through in the for each loop. Yeah, obviously that is an issue. Obviously that's going to be a problem, right? Am I? No, but I'm not looping through. Oh, that's the issue. Yeah, no. I was. I'll say. I was thinking. Is if you clear the loop that you're looping through in the loop, it should just cancel the loop, right? But I'm not even doing that. I'm clearing a different array. That is. I don't know if that's the issue. Fucking sue me. I think it loads them back in. I think we've done it. Assassin, worth 1. Ignore this. Fucking just kidding. Assassin, worth 50. We done it. We can save and load all the data that we need. My goodness. Okay, let's get rid of that logging, because that is actually really annoying. So what I was doing is I'm iterating through the asset card list that I generate on begin play, but that's trying to get a. It's trying to write to a array that doesn't exist, I guess. I don't know what's going wrong there. Something went wrong. But that's all fixed now. So what we can do is we can now finally start dynamically changing the values of these cards. So let's implement that and see if it actually works. So what we do is we create a timer in begin play at the very end here. So create timer, get real time manager, set timer, need to make that handle, of course, f timer handle. What are we going to call this? Price timer. The in object will be this, that's fine. The in rate will be, for now, we'll just do 10 seconds, that's cool. Loop true. And it tries to run save game because it doesn't actually have the function yet. That's fine. Void updates prices. For now, just going to randomly update them 10% up or down, or something in between, rather. Oh, that's wrong. There we go. Give me a moment, I'll look at chat. I can see you guys typing away. We need to run this every 10 seconds. Hopefully that's not going to hit the CPU too heavy. Set timer is that equals no timeline in blueprints, or set timer in blueprints also. There is also a set timer in blueprint. I think timelines are iffy in C++. I've never really used them in C++. I looked into it. It's possible, I think, but it seems like a nightmare to control from C++. I think you can make them in C++, as a component. But at that point, I guess you can play and whatever. But the whole different output pins and whatever that timelines have, or different input pins, all that kind of stuff. It's really blueprint oriented in its design, the way that it's made, I feel. So, like, trying to force that into C++, like, if you really need to, you can, I think, but I don't think you really should. A timer is literally just a timer. You can set that in Blueprint too. It's also the way that you, like, skip. If you want to delay C++ code, you can't just delay, because that's not how C++ code works. Like, this all works in one thread, right? So you need to use a timer for that in C++. Which is why, again, when I say if something is like time sensitive, do it in Blueprint, because you can just add a latent delay node. Yeah, once every 10 seconds should not be that much of an issue. What I'm thinking is, eventually we're going to have about 100 cards, right? Going through all those, like, in one game take every 10 seconds. I don't think it's going to be an issue, but if it is an issue, we might need to look into making that async instead. Which should be fine, because there's nothing that's relying on the output from that. Like, if something just requests the value before it was updated in the async calculation, it's just going to get the old price, which is fine. So if it ends up, like, creating stuttering, that's a good excuse for me to finally, like, make an async function properly in C++, because I always, like, think that looks not fun to do. Anyway, let's go through our card sales. So let's make a T array of U card assets pointers, call it cards. You put the name outside of the brackets, not inside the brackets, you idiot. And then we do that, and then we for each over that floats random change equals yes. Random change times current value. That's already a pointer, so card sales card equals card value? No. Just this. I'm gonna get real annoyed by the fact that that's not an uppercase U. So this should now update. Oh, now we need to. We've got F2 for a reason, for fuck's sake. Why don't I use it? Now it should update to anywhere between plus and minus 10% every 10 seconds. I had an endless level generation blueprint that had a few million iterations, would slow down. Janky fix was to separate iterations with very slow delay and pause an array 10,000 at a time. That is effectively just making it, well, it's not actually async, right? But that's kind of hacking together an async solution, because you're doing them in batches, every game take on the main thread. Like, async would just do them all in a row anyway, but on a separate thread. But you can't do async in Blueprint as far as I know. You do need to set up a C++ class for that. Anyway, now that we have that, let's just take a look at this. And value is 50. Is it going to update live? Is the question. I don't know that it will. Oh, it does. Okay, so now it updated to... So if I just hang out here, will I see the live update? I do. Okay, so that works. So if I now save... I said if I now save, right? And I check this, it is where it left off last time. If I load, it should be... Okay, it's where it left off last time, but now if I load... I need to click in the window. If I load, it should now be back to... Yeah, okay, so we can now easily... We are changing the values, again, not very intelligently, but we'll get to that later when I've actually decided on how that formula needs to work, because I have no idea. But we can change those values, we can save them, and we can load them so that when we start the game back up, everything still has the same fucking value that we did when we left off. So that's great. Okay, cool. So what do we do now? I guess. What the fuck? What the fuck is up with my camera? What the hell? Okay, so I guess one other thing that I want to do is we are setting the amount sold to card.value. I just want to set that to 0 by default, and then that way we can keep track of how many of each card we have sold. So that way, yeah. So how will we do that? Because what I want to do, if anybody wasn't here early in the stream, which is a very high likelihood because it was like an hour and a half ago, we've got all of these cards in this map, right? And this map has like pointers to the cards and a integer for the amount of cards that we have sold of that type since the last time that I did a wipe. Which I'll probably not do a wipe every time I update the price. I'll probably like set a different timer for like 5 minutes, which wipes those integers clean every single time, so that we can get a fresh start every now and then. I want cards that have sold 0, so that you haven't sold at all in the last little while. I want them to have a greater chance of landing somewhere near the upper side of this range. Because, of course, if you haven't sold anything in a while, I want to motivate people to sell cards that they haven't sold recently, so that they always keep rotating out their cards and they don't stack up on the same booster pack over and over and over and over again. If you've sold, like, X amount, let's say 15, of a certain card, what I want to do is I want it to be weighted toward getting this. Meaning that you get punished for selling the same card over and over and over again. Again, forcing you into a little bit of variety. I have no idea how the math for this would work. Like, how do I even begin to program something like that, right? I could... Because the thing is, if I had a maximum amount that I would clamp this to, like if you sell up to 20, it keeps decreasing, but after that it's just like static at 20 or more. That effectively just becomes a loop, right? We can just say instead of weighing against one of these, what we can just do is we can say we want to always increase from 0 to 10%, but then that's actually not a bad idea. So yeah, I think that's the way we're going to do it. We're always going to, by default, be on a spectrum of 0 to 10% like increase, right? That is what we're going to do. So this is plus. And then you're going to get the 0 point is going to get moved to this side for let's say 1% for every card that you have sold of that type. That might become 2%, whatever. So if you sold 20 cards, the entire range then goes from -20 to +10. That doesn't technically give you any more weighting towards this -20, but if you get a random value in this range, the more there is in this negative side, the higher the chance of landing something negative in general. That said, I think the default range shouldn't start at 0. The default range should still start at about like -5 or something like that. So that cards that you never sell don't only always go up in value, right? We still want a little bit of this happening to them. Add plus minus with random range with if statements. I don't know how that would work. Make cards have an age, adding value on the 10-second tick. That could be interesting. That's not really what I'm imagining right now. So the idea is that the longer you keep a card in your inventory, or the longer you keep a card, the more valuable it will become. I like this idea better because it still has some randomness to it. Like there's still, again, I don't want it to just do this, right? I want it to do this, kind of. Like if you're not selling something, still have a little bit of like jaggedness to that graph, but generally do trend upward. Generate clamp float value from the amount sold. Yeah, well, I don't think I need to, like, I don't need to clamp anything, do I? Like, I can still clamp the amount sold so that it stops at -20%. If you've sold like 100 of them, so that it doesn't actually tank. But then again, maybe I don't even need to clamp it. Like, if you actually stock up 100 cars and you all sell them in a very short time period, I feel like it is fair for that to tank the price. So maybe I don't even need to worry about clamping this. Yeah, I think that's the way we're going to do it. So, so what we're going to do instead is we make a float for min, and we make a float for max. Let's call it min change. What the fuck are you talking about? Local variable min change never. Yeah, I'm getting into that. What the fuck? Min change equals. So that would be -5. Don't need to specify that that's a float apparently. -5 plus. Let's see. So that would be card sales. Card. No, we don't need to multiply that by that. We just need to negate it. So now we've got -5 plus a negative correlation about how many we've sold since. I feel like we maybe do need to we'll see. I feel like maybe we do want to clear all of these every time we update the price, and we'll just update the price a little bit less regularly, like once every 5 minutes. Because the thing is, like, if you've sold 5 of these, it's going to over and over and over again have a better chance of decreasing the value. If you've sold 20 of these, it's actually just going to tank the value over the next like 5 minutes. If it updates, well, I'm thinking I want this to update every 90 seconds. So it would have like 3 or 4 instances of value changes, which could like halve it in value if you get really unlucky on those rules. I think this is fine still. I think this is fine. And then the max change would be... I think that's always, let's say, that's always positive 10. But if it is actually 0, I think I do want to give it a boost. So, yeah, let's check that. So, then if a card sales card equals 0, I want max range, max chance to be like 15. Yeah, so then we get minimum chance multiplied by 0. Like just divided by 100. Right, yeah. And then we get maximum chance divided by 100. Yes. Let's see. For example, -5 plus 5 for the range default. For each 10 cards sold, clamp the range plus minus by vector 2D min max in one variable. I mean, that would actually be wasteful. It also doesn't matter, but maybe add a loss value for comparison. Current sale, last sale. Difference can be used for calculating the percentage. We'll see if this ends up going way out of proportion and like tanking values of cards all over the place. We'll have a look into it. I might get rid of this line, to be honest with you, because this already is trending positive. Like on a scale from -5 to +10, your average is going to be a positive value already. So making it even more positive at 0. And there's going to be a lot of cards that are going to be just sitting at 0 for like extended. You're going to have 100 cards, right? And in a, let's say, 5-minute period, how many of those cards are you going to sell? 10? Maybe? Which means that like 90 of those cards are going to be trending up in value anyway. And then the next 5 minutes, you maybe sell another 10. 10 totally separate cards from the 10 that you sold the 5 minutes before. But that still leaves 80 cards that now have had 10 minutes to, on average, appreciate in value. Like, what is the median between -5 and like +10? That's 7.5. So 2.5% per 90 seconds. On average, they would gain in value over 10 minutes. So they probably already like got 50% extra value. So this might even be a little bit aggressive still. Like maybe I actually straight up want to do this as like 7 instead. Matter of fact, let's do that as 7. That just gives it a slight edge upward, but not insane. Because again, there's going to be a bunch of cards that are just going to be sitting around that you either like don't own, or that you just don't have the room to be selling at that moment in time. And that kind of just makes a more of a carousel. And when you get to the end of it, those cards aren't going to be insanely broken in their value, but they will be worth a lot more. And then by the time you've gone through all the cards in the game, more or less, you get back to the first cards that you ever traded with, because those are now worth a lot more. I think that makes sense to do it that way. Yeah, so I think we're gonna do it like this, and then we'll also make a F timer handle price or sales resets. Void resets sales values. I mean, again, there might be more to this. This is kind of just off the cuff what I'm coming up with. So, do a T array of you card assets pointers. Card assets, get them from there. Good. And then we in begin play. Okay, so let's change this now to 90 seconds and like 300 seconds. You could add a random hit for cards that sit around too long. For example, let's say a dragon was not sold or bought in the last 20 minutes. The price may randomly crash. Narratively, it can be because no one wanted to buy the card. That is an interesting idea. It does add a little bit more dynamics. The only thing that I'm immediately like a little bit worried about is that might create a negative feedback loop. Because if the price crashes, you have no reason to keep that card for sale. But then you can just... Yeah, no, actually that is probably a fun idea, because then you can just like pull it back into your inventory. We have... we don't have like display cases yet, but eventually when my camera starts working again, like we have our like inventory. Well, we have our inventory on the player, but then we have got a card storage just to keep all of our cards on us that we don't have to like sort through or that we don't want to worry about right now. And then we have the place that we buy booster packs. Eventually, we're also going to add some display cases, and that's where the actual card sales are going to happen. So what you do is, the idea is you get your cards out of storage. That's what the player has in inventory, just to keep them in there. And then you like place them in the storage cases, and NPCs will come in, look at them, and like have some code to decide whether or not they want to buy them. And if they do, they will buy them. There could be something to it where if NPCs over and over and over again for a certain amount of time, indeed, just by random chance, decide every single time, I don't want to buy this, for the value to indeed like tank. I'll draw it here, so that you're incentivized to like take this out, put it back into storage for a little bit so that it can appreciate some value before you go back and put it in like half an hour later again. The only thing that I'm then thinking about, because I like that idea. But I'm also kind of thinking that the NPCs need to have like a little bit of logic as to whether or not they want to buy something. So the NPCs will have access to this information, like the value, the actual like market value of the card, like multiplied by a modifier for their rarity. They will be able to calculate, and then you can set your own price as you put a card up for sale. And if an NPC sees a card that's up for sale that it knows to be worth $60, and you've got it listed for 50, that should be almost an instant sale. If they know something to be worth 60 and you've got it listed for 70, that should most of the time be a rejected sale. But there still should be like an X percentage chance that the sale goes through, just for like fun gameplay mechanics. Also, sometimes people are just idiots and buy things at high prices. So let's say that's like a 5% chance for that sale to still go through. Of course, that would then be calculated based on the distance between these, and the same here. Like if you're selling exactly at market rate, I imagine, like, if that exactly matches, I imagine that a client or a customer would just like have a 50% chance to buy them, which then, if you are like more than 10% on the market value, that goes just straight up to like 95%. I don't ever want to make it 100%. I want some randomness to still be in there, so we'll clamp it to 95%. But so if I sell this for 54, I get the max odds, is the idea. And the same thing here, but probably a little bit like, well, probably still clamped. So if you sell them at, well, no, you need to unclamp this, because otherwise you get the issue. If we say that instead of just 10%, we go for like 25% overvalue here, at which point you only have a 5% chance. If you're going to do that, you might as well go double market price or triple market price, because you're always going to have 5% chance anyway. So this needs to always keep going down and down and down and down the further away you are from market price, like a logarithmic scale, right? Or rather, like this. So there's a lot of math that's going to be included in this whole economy thing that we need to build. But because of that, I'm a little bit worried about having something that like tanks the value based on not being sold. But the whole like customer AI thing is probably going to need to have a pretty decent amount of complexity, because I also, like, for a common card, probably like 25% over market price would be quite bad. But legendary cards, which only show up every so often, like, they already have at this time like 3x the value. But you probably can milk people a little bit more for those as well. So maybe like when you sell a legendary card, their AI will go differently, and they will accept effectively up to like a 50% markup or something like that, right? And then the idea of potentially NPCs having their own preferences for certain like booster packs, because we're going to have the idea is that we're going to have like 5 booster packs with 20 cards each. So maybe if an NPC really likes like horror, that's the booster pack that I'm working on right now, like horror monsters, they have like increased odds to buy anything that is like just a flat extra value, like an extra 10% chance to buy anything from that booster pack. I do like that idea. That's actually a really good idea. Your mouse wheel sounds like an Amex Master. Can you hear my mouse wheel? Yeah, you can. This is when it's on the... Oh, that was probably really annoying to look at. I'm sorry. That's when it's on the ratchet. When I unlock it, you can't hear it. But that is really annoying to scroll with. Actually giving NPCs when they spawn in a certain amount of money in their pocket also makes sense. Then I can have like a couple of different types of NPCs, right? I can have like children, which have only a little bit of money. And then I can have like furry artists, which come in with thousands of dollars. Only issue is that those also all like need art made for them. And this is just a fun little side project. I don't want to overscope this too much. That's the thing. But I do like a lot of the ideas that we're coming up with here. But yeah, I think the idea of NPCs like spawning in with a certain amount of money might be interesting. But I guess before we decide any of that, we actually just also kind of need to see this like value system in action. And in order to do that, I think we're not going to do anything particularly today anymore because it's like been live for almost 3 hours. We're going to call it pretty soon. But I think when we come back, which will be on Tuesday, because I'm actually going to take like the weekend off for the most part. When we come back on Tuesday, I think what we're going to do is I think we should be working on adding the display case so that I can actually like put in the cards, put them in for sale, and then start working on like the basics for the AI. Which means that we also need to have like a somewhat more finished shop, because at this point this is just like a test style map. Because I also had this idea. God damn it. Where like if this is the shop, right? We have let's say they come in from here. Like this is the door, right? And then like this is roughly the shop. I can literally just draw rectangles with this tool, but who cares? So we have this. We would probably fuck me. So we would probably have this like computer system pretty close to the chest, so that you can like buy them and then immediately like put them in there and whatever. Initially, I was going to have the option to also just sell booster packs as a whole, which would just get you a little bit of guaranteed money over the average value of what the cards in that booster pack at the moment are worth. I think I'm going to do away with that, because adding the ability to carry booster packs in the item slots is probably going to be a little painful. Not that painful, but a little bit. And I also think that everything that we're discussing right now in and of itself makes a pretty good game loop. I think throwing the booster packs in there doesn't do much, except for make something that might be objectively the best choice to make at all times, which kind of undermines the rest of like the value appreciation mechanic that we just discussed. So I think I'm going to get rid of the booster pack. I think when you buy a booster pack from here, it's just going to generate, like, how many cards are usually in a booster pack in a TCG? Like 10? It's going to just generate 10 random cards from that set that you're going to get, and you can put them away in here, and then you're going to have, like, let's say, like 10 display cases. When NPC comes up, decides to it wants to buy one, I want to actually, like, walk up to, like, a counter afterwards. So they don't just, like, walk in, money magically appears and they walk back out. I want it to feel like an actual like shop experience. That's also because sometimes what I want NPCs to do is to come in here to sell cards. So they will just go straight to here and they will offer you a card for, again, probably in a range of -10 to +10 percent over its current market value. So even if it is currently being sold for a ridiculous price, if you hang on to it, you might be able to like make a bit of profit on it. That's an idea that I also had. I don't know if I'm going to actually end up implementing that, because again, this is a side project. I need to get back to my actual like game that I'm making at some point. Yeah, booster packs that you can just like buy and then sell through for a little bit of like guaranteed profit. Just selling the booster packs to the NPCs doesn't really add anything, I agree. Just make sure there's session not to go bankrupt. Yeah. Yeah, and I guess that is like that takes a little bit of fun out of the game, doesn't it? As well. Like they either always sell a little bit under the value, which means that they're just bad, or they just always sell a little bit over the value, which means that they're probably a little bit too safe. So I'm gonna, yeah, I think I've just decided that I'm gonna do away with the booster pack ID. I'm still not entirely decided on the, where's my cursor? Oh, there we are. I'm still not entirely decided on the NPCs trying to sell cards idea, because I think that could be fun, and maybe I will make like one specific card set that will only be able to be obtained through this way, because that will naturally mean that they're going to skyrocket in price over the course of your gameplay, right? Because you're not going to be able to buy them, which means that you're not going to be able to sell them, which means that they're going to, on average, be appreciating in value. So by the time you get the opportunity to buy one, they're going to be expensive, most likely, unless you get lucky and you get one of those NPCs very early on in your gameplay. But it's also a pretty guaranteed investment, because, well, you are the one that kind of guides the pricing of the game, right? If you just decide not to sell something for an hour, it's gonna be worth a lot more. But that would also then work as kind of a safety net. But again, these are probably going to be exceedingly rare, and especially like getting a legendary of that set is probably gonna be like a unlikely to ever happen kind of deal. But like, we're making a TCG Tycoon game, right? I think there should be a couple of things in there that are ridiculous to get. So that if you are playing this at any point, I don't know if anybody is going to be playing this for more than 5 minutes, to be very clear. But if you're playing this at some point, and you get one, and it ends up being a legendary, like, that is insane, right? Negotiation gameplay with NPCs like potion medics would be fun. Yeah, I think that would be introducing a whole ass different mechanic. That I probably like. I don't want to scope up this game more than I'm already doing, because it was supposed to be a idea of like, hey, let's do something that will allow me to try out Godot. And then I figured out that I don't like Godot, and now I'm doing the game in Unreal. I'm doing this to make a video out of it that needs to go up in like 3 weeks. So I need to finish and be able to edit the video about this in a relatively short period of time. So I'm kind of aiming to hopefully next week have most of it done. And at that point, I do want to maybe look into having some better art made for it, so that if I put it up on itch.io, it looks halfway decent. Like But like the goal is to get most of the way done next week, and then the week after maybe finish up some things. But after that, it really should be done, and I should be getting back to like my long-term projects. But yeah, I'm gonna call it there for today, and we're gonna be back with more stuff next week. It's been a fun one. I'm very glad that I decided to just like on a whim stream today, because I didn't feel good about the progress that we made yesterday. It was so little, and we didn't make a lot of progress today, but we actually like made progress from a learning perspective. We learned quite a few things about the asset registry, about serializing data to save it in C++. All things which I haven't really like properly done, specifically in C++ before. So I think this was a educational stream, at least for me. And then we also actually made some systems that work, so that's fantastic. I'm gonna head out now. I'll see you all back next time, and thanks for hanging out. Luckily, my internet didn't die too much this time. For fuck's sake, thank you.